And we are live here to chat about tonight's episode of Suits, which was the mid-season premiere of season 7, episode 11, entitled Hard Truths. There were some hard truths. There were some hard somethings in this. Shana, you're here. Kick us off. Tell us who you are and just give me like a sentence review of this show.
Oh Lord, who am I? I'm Shana. I've been, I guess, recap reviewing Suits since 3B or 4, like a while now. This is actually the show that I've been with the longest. And my one sentence review
of tonight's episode.
Yes, of tonight's episode. I think it would really be that, like, so I hate that we're here, but I love how we're working on turning our car around or whatever.
Right. I love angst so much. And I know we always kick this off with like, I want everybody to rate it on a scale from 1 to 5. And that's what we do. But I kind of wanted, before we even got into the numbers, I wanted to see what you were feeling, because I've kind of like, you've seen this episode a few times now because you got the chance to review it in advance. For me, you're getting my like live initial reaction, right? Because I just watched it now, and this live show is recorded right after. Spoilers all over this, as there are with all of my after shows, by the way. So if you haven't watched the show, watch the show first before hearing this, unless you just like spoilers. So this is my initial reaction, and oh my God, the angst in this, it was so turned up in terms of like the emotional turmoil that was actually expressed, verbally expressed, not just something we sort of had to read between the lines, that it was catching me off guard. And I'm a sucker for angst, but this was a lot. And they really packed a lot of an emotional journey into one episode when they started this episode with this tension, this anger between Harvey and Donna, and there's a lot of tension paralleling it in other storylines as well. I expected that to continue for a couple episodes, and I was really surprised that by the end of the episode, they had kind of brought it around to like they couldn't stay apart. And I was like, oh, okay, we're going. Wow. All right. So now that we got that out of the way, rate it for me. I'm gonna let Shana talk, but then anybody watching live as well, give me your rating in the chat on a scale from 1 to 5. 1 being this is a terrible episode, I couldn't stand anything, and 5 being I loved every second of it. Where would this fall for you, Shana? A 5.
It's a 5, and I gotta tell you, like, I mean, I was joking on Twitter before it even aired. The whole. If you guys aren't familiar, there's a history with me asking Korish, like, who's Harvey going to beat up this week on Donna's behalf? And he was like, LOL, he's going to use a toaster and maybe it'll be me or something like that. And so it's been an ongoing thing. Like, I'm calling this 5 out of 5 toasters to the face. And I actually mean that completely lovingly, because you do. You want to actually, I have to tell you, I wanted to kill both of them at various moments in this episode.
Right.
And like, it's usually very one-sided. Like, I think I can speak for a lot of people when I say most of season 7 has been, we want to kill Harvey Specter.
Sure,
right?
Sure.
But they both behaved so badly, and yet it was exactly who these people were as characters. And it was, I'm going to tell you, like, even watching it the third time, I was like, oh boy. Because it never let up. Even when it switched to other things, you're like, yeah, but they're going to have to come back to this at some point. What's going to happen? It was, you don't get, or at least you haven't gotten on Suits, I think, in quite a long time, this idea of really not wanting to turn away for a second.
Yeah, it was like every scene that you see, both with Harvey and Donna, which tonight's episode is pretty heavy with Harvey and Donna, but just in general, I think that for me, for you, and I think for a lot of people watching this, that's sort of a main storyline that we care about. So that's probably what we're going to talk a lot about. But for that, and for quite a lot of the other storylines, there's sort of this, you feel like everything's screeching to a halt, to some sort of end, to some sort of, inevitability, that we get that sometimes with this show in terms of Mike's Harvard storyline, where you feel like Mike's about to be exposed or something's about to happen with him. But for me, that's not something I'm quite as heavily invested in on an emotional level, because I'm sort of like, he'll pay a fine, he'll go to jail for a second, and then he's going to get out. Whereas for Harvey and Donna, it's like their whole lives and career and partnership and stuff sort of rides on this, that it just feels so much more significant that it's coming to this thing where, like, you know, at the moment where he kind of tells her, like, oh, it did mean something to me, even though she gave him that out and she was like, it didn't mean anything. And he's like, but it did to me. That's like, whoa, you can't really come back from that, son. So it's just sort of, I don't know. It was really interesting that they were willing to go there, and that they were willing to go there with still a few episodes left this season. We've talked a lot on this, especially, and I've just talked with you a lot about this in general, about how the show likes to backtrack from things a lot.
Mhm.
And it feels like with this, at least they went there to where even if they backtrack, they've gone there. It's not like it's just approaching something. There's some lines, there's some moments in this where it feels like they've gone there. Before we get into some of the other storylines that have gone on in this episode, let's talk about that cliffhanger. What's Miss Paula, ethical therapist of the year, going to say after this? What do you think? Or I guess I should say, I know you've probably, I think, already seen the second or third episode this season. So spoilers aside for second or third episode, what did you think when you saw this cliffhanger the first time, and what did you think she was going to say?
I mean, I was like, ooh, okay, shit's gonna hit the fan. Wait, it's over. And luckily, like I was telling some people, you know, I'm really glad that they dumped 3 at once.
Yeah.
I needed to know, like, that's the thing with this episode. Like, I had to know what came next.
Right.
And it's interesting, like, I mean, I know we talked a lot in 7A that, I mean, Paula should have known all of this all
Mhm.
along. Like, what is she doing? It was pretty interesting to me that, you know, it even has to be a cliffhanger because they brought the issue up several times at the end of the episode. Like, if we can't tell each other things, what are we doing? And the fact that that's even then set as a cliffhanger, like that's doubt there. And I'm just, you know, I'd say anyone wise becoming aware that the man that they're with clearly has feelings for someone else and has this history that they never told us about, you know, I'd be like, boy, bye. And I'd be really concerned about this other woman. But I mean,
Right.
she knew he had feelings for Donna. She's all, we've been through this, you do. And I'm like, when did
Right.
you go through it? And if so, like, why?
I think that's why my
Fantasize about him.
prediction is, and so for me it is actually just a prediction because I haven't seen episodes 2 and 3. My prediction is this isn't as much of a shock to her as she's making it out to be, and she's sort of like, you know, you didn't tell me this side or the other, and it's like, sweetie, you were his therapist, you knew all this, like you literally knew, like as the kids say. I don't think this is coming as a shock or a surprise to her at all. Consequently, because I personally am of the belief that she knew this beforehand, I have to assume she's not going to break up with him, but that she's going to use this to manipulate him. Because, and I say this like not even hating, I love a good villain. I just see her as a villain. It's just it's an ethical break to where she's a villain. We love a good female villain representation. That's great.
Just not the
Because
time.
because I come with this perspective that she already knew this about them, and she's sort of like, shocking, like, you have feelings for Donna that you didn't tell me. And it's like, well, he did kind of tell you in a therapy session. It's kind of your own fault for fucking your patient, but it's chill. Like, because of that, I just assume she's not going to break up with him, and she's just gonna sort of like super guilt trip him over it, which is fair because he got himself into this. He should not have dated his therapist either. He's a big boy and he should know better. Like, he's a little bit of a victim in this because, like, doctor patient power to, you know, all that sort of stuff, but also he's a grown-up and knew better, and shouldn't have done this, and should at this point know enough to know that he's kind of projecting the whole, he sees her as like a alternative Donna or whatever, you know, the bargain brand Walmart version. So because of that, he's going to be easily guilted, and he takes cheating really seriously. And I think he would see a kiss as cheating because this is such a significant kiss to him. You know, like, it carried with it the emotions of a relationship, the emotions of cheating. He's put himself in a position, I think, to sort of be guilt tripped and manipulated by her, which is, that's fair. You know, he made this bed, he's going to have to lie in it, metaphorically and figuratively. Let's talk about some of the other storylines that we had in tonight's episode. I care a lot about Jessica. Jessica did not show up in this episode, but we do know that she's getting a spinoff. That spinoff has been green lighted. That's probably the incorrect term, but you know what I'm talking about. And in tonight's episode, we had a lot of this revolving around the fact that Jessica might be disbarred. What did you think about the way they handled that and the fact that she didn't actually show up in this episode?
You know, she didn't physically show up or, you know, we didn't hear her voice or anything, but we did get, there was enough of a ghost of her. Like Harvey didn't want to betray her. And Lewis said that he was going to make the call to ask her if it was okay to do this thing that they did.
Right.
I think it's interesting that 713 is called inevitable, because like I really think that what wound up happening was in inevitability. Once Mike went down, other people had to go down with him, and realistically, everybody is to blame. I mean, obviously, Harvey and Mike are most to blame. Let's get that out of the way. Like, but nobody's innocent here. So the fact that Jessica was the boss and could have canned them both. And then, you know, and I never, ever believe that the queen bee should be sacrificed for the idiots in the hive that fucked up. But, you know, it makes sense, as difficult as it was to swallow.
Yeah.
And I think, but the nice, like really the best part of all of that, besides like the super dramatic, angsty pain when you hear him reading the statement and all, is that, I mean, Harvey outright said at least twice in this episode, once to Mike, like, hey, I'm not going to tell you it's not your fault, because it is, and it's mine too. And also when he, you know, he glances down at this piece of paper that Lewis gives him, and he says, oh, okay, so we're going to say about Jessica everything that we should be saying about me. Like, Harvey actually owns up for the first, like, aside from trying to fall on his sword to protect Mike from jail, which incidentally, Jessica fell on her sword to save everybody else. Despite trying to be Mr. Noble to save somebody else, like Harvey's never really the consequences here. He's never owned up.
Yeah, I think what's interesting with Harvey selling out Jessica, although he didn't really have a choice, it's not really I get what was going on there. It wasn't, he had no choice. But what was interesting there is, in terms of setting Jessica up for her spinoff, it sort of contrasts where she is in terms of ethics compared to where they are in terms of ethics, and the ethical turmoil that this whole firm represents. Because as much as they all kind of, I mean, I guess Harvey doesn't necessarily see himself as like up on a pedestal in terms of ethics, but he does see himself up on a pedestal in terms of being a lawyer. And this is a loss for him. For Mike, he sort of has this whole like, he's like an ethical good guy hero complex thing, but then he's got that whole some issues with his past and the legality of being a lawyer and the Harvard thing and stuff. So there's sort of this gray area, and I think that's sort of setting it up to where Jessica and her spinoff is just going to represent a much different perspective on like ethical right and wrong.
I would like
that. Yeah, and the fact that she had never, she never really gave up on them or sold them out necessarily, whereas they, in the end, through no choice of their own, they had to sell her out. It just shows this contrast. She's leaving this sort of like cutthroat gray area. There is no right, there is no wrong sort of world, and she's going off to, I know her show is going to revolve around like some really interesting social issues, and she's going to be sort of advocating for them. And I think that's going to be an interesting position to see her, and to see somebody who's come from this sort of cutthroat, sell out everybody world, and eventually become more of this like for the people type of figure. It makes me interested in the spinoff without her even being on the episode. So I would say that's a success. I also want to talk a little bit about Mike and Rachel's storyline. Tell me what you think of that. I loved Rachel in this. I loved the writing that they gave her when she got to do like the work on the case herself. Didn't love that she's always kind of having to stroke Mike's ego and that Mike's always disrespecting her, but like, we take what we can get. Slim pickings out here. What did you think of them?
No, I mean, I actually thought Mike did a good job of, hey, not every junior partner is marrying up and things like that. And when they closed the
Right.
case, he was like, nah, man, that was Rachel. I thought it was really nice to see them working together in such a way that Mike was actually not doing anything shady.
Yeah.
It was a very straightforward, honest work that they noticed
Right.
he was doing something wrong and they fixed it.
Right.
I definitely like Rachel being the one to save the day.
Hmm.
But it's a little bit interesting, and I am afraid with both of these actors leaving, kind of where
Yeah.
their relationship is, because
Right.
yeah, it's there was a little bit of tension there in terms of, hey, why aren't you backing me up right
Yeah.
away? And it was
That didn't
both sides.
be resolved by the end of it, and they seem to be foreshadowing by the end of it the idea of them starting some sort of practice together, working more closely together.
Yeah, I wonder about that, but I also wonder about, Mike wants to do more work.
Yeah.
Rachel's like, hey, maybe we should focus on important things like our wedding that has been
I didn't
put off
love
for
that it was
more
like he
years.
was talking about work and she was talking about the wedding. That felt cliche, but then, it suits.
Yeah, but I mean, that's like, I wonder what they were trying to go for there. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I honestly say I don't know exactly what the outcome there is going to be. I would obviously like for it to be a happy one.
Yeah.
But it
You're a Rachel shipper,
interesting
right?
question. Hmm?
You ship Mike and Rachel.
I mean, it depends on the season. Like in the very beginning, absolutely. The copy room, oh boy.
You like that?
Season 4 was kind of killed the ship. But then, I mean, it's been very back and forth for me. But if we're looking back at these two leaving, and you're looking back at the beginning of the series, they show those little clips in between tonight. You want to believe that like these little puppy dogs grew up and had some happiness. That and the way that the show has been written is that that would mean being together. So,
Yeah.
and I
I
gotta
mean, we
tell
kind of
you,
we kind of already know. I mean, hopefully everybody watching is okay with spoilers. We kind of already know that the two actors are leaving the show at the end of the season. They're ostensibly going to get married and run off into the sunset together. The sunset, most likely, if the foreshadowing in this episode holds true, is going to be some sort of shared legal practice, pro bono, for the good of the people type of thing as well, but not tied to the Jessica spinoff. So, the end of the season, we're going to see the Jessica spinoff sent off to fly, Mike and Rachel sent off to fly or, you know, marry into the royal family. And and Harvey, Donna, Lewis, Katrina, and a few others we're going to see will pop up in season 8. Katherine Heigl is one of them. We'll
I was gonna say I'm gonna reserve my shade until after I've seen, I guess, but
Ooh, speaking of shade, we have a couple comments. Let's jump into the comments. Just a Fan Fave says, I do not ship Darby, but I love Suits, so I'm here. Everybody's welcome here, even if you don't ship Darby. We do, though. We'll probably inundate you with that. I'm sorry. I'm not that sorry, but I'm a little bit. She also says Jessica is watching us. That is true. I've got my lovely handy dandy Jessica right here. Looks like I'm stroking her boobs. I'm not. I wish. And then she says, Paula is so sweet. You think she's a villain? So
mm,
that's fair. She is written as sweet in tonight's episode, in that she's written as quite soft. And again, I'm not dragging. I don't ever really mean to drag female characters in general. If I see her as a villain, it's not to her detriment. If anything, I like villains better. When I say she's a villain, I don't mean she's out to go kill somebody. I mean, in terms of this show, the whole conflict usually comes from people being in different ethical standpoints. So, we had this conflict with the Harvard thing. Mike wanted to practice law. He hadn't gone to Harvard, and everybody who was opposing him was sort of a villain, whereas I took the stance that Mike was the villain. Mike was the one who was breaking the rules. Mike was the one who thought he was above the law. he did need to go to jail. He did need to go through what they put him through to sort of pay off his debts for, trying to jump the line and thinking he was better than everybody else and think he was better than the law. And by the time he paid that off, in the end, he does get to be this sort of hero lawyer where he gets to do good things for good people and it's all above board. So that's what I mean by villain when it comes to ethical conflicts. When it comes to this whole thing with Paula, she was the therapist for somebody who was quite mentally and emotionally and physically drained, vulnerable. She knew a lot about him, still knows a lot about him, and she was willing to sort of break ethics and date him anyways, even though it was sort of like an ethical gray area, similar to how Mike was often in an ethical gray area. Because of that, I see her as the villain because she's ethically in the wrong. And they've set it up to where in the past she's been ethically in the wrong. Like in her past, she's been ethically in the wrong, stealing her past partner's patients because it was supposed to be for their benefit and that sort of stuff. She, much like Mike, tried to rationalize around these rules that she's breaking because she thinks she knows better than them. Like, as a therapist, you shouldn't date your patient. As a therapist, she knows her patient has these sort of unresolved feelings, but she's willing to go around them anyways. And in this show, at least for Mike, that didn't pan out well for him. And I was fully rooting for Mike to have to serve justice for that. I saw Mike as somebody who's broken the law and needs to pay the price for what he did. Likewise, I see that for Paula, except for I'm not necessarily rooting for her to face any sort of justice where like she has to lose her license or something, because I'm not that invested in her life and storyline to really care to see that. I just think that I don't really want in the end this relationship between her and Harvey to be painted as a good thing, because it's totally fine to show some sort of like therapist patient relationship on screen. I just want to make sure that it's clear that that's not a good thing. That's not something ethical or good or something, similar to how we shouldn't portray teacher student relationship or anything like that as like good. You can see it in some show that toys in these weird gray areas, but you want to see them have to, face some sort of justice, or at least see that there's some sort of emotional or mental reason why they shouldn't go there. It's a bit too much of a long explanation, but hopefully that answers your question. She's responding in the chat. She says she thinks the whole firm should have gone to jail. That's fair. And she agrees that Paula is ethically wrong. Also fair. Glad we came to a conclusion. But somebody could be ethically wrong and still sweet. For example, Shana still thinks Mike is sweet sometimes, even though he was ethically wrong.
He is sometimes. And I was going to say the other thing with Paula, it's not even that she's dating a former patient. It's that she outright in 701 was like, yeah, well, you think I didn't sit here and think about you sleeping me off my feet? Like, a therapist should not be having those thoughts about her patient, especially when said patient is that emotionally messed up. And when he's coming in clearly hung up on somebody else. I mean, if people need to rewind, the whole reason Harvey Specter went to therapy to begin with was because he was having panic attacks over his secretary moving down the hall. Like, so
she was literally moving just like a few feet away, and he was having panic attacks about it. And his therapist knew that. And his therapist also knew he was like having sex dreams about her too, right? Like this.
Transference.
That's why I feel like none of this should be surprising to Paula. It's like, sis, you knew what you were getting into. Come on.
Yep. Sweetie, no. And that's the thing. Like, I mean, she knows that he has a problem with transference because of his like sex dream about Donna cheating on him.
Isn't Transference one of the titles of the upcoming episodes, or am I like imagining that entirely?
The only two more that I know, because for some reason the stuff that I check, like I don't know where people are getting episode titles, because when I look on the main press site, I just see photos for the upcoming episodes that I already know about. And when I look on the screener site, I only see what's there. I only know about Bad Man, I think it is next week, and Inevitable is the week after.
Yeah, I just checked the app I use to track TV, and those are the only two.
Yeah,
so ones that have ones as well. But I could have, you know what? Somebody was probably just like tweeting the word transference, and I just assumed it was a title. Go on, sorry.
Probably. I mean, so she knows that he has that problem because he had his issues with his mom being a cheater and catching her with what's his name, and he somehow transfers that on to Donna changing which desk she works at, which is not the same.
Right.
So she knows that he doesn't know where to place his emotions about different things, and that he makes substitutions like this. So look, I get that he's pretty. Like, girl, honey, I get it, but you don't sit there and fantasize about your emotionally mess of a patient. And
You know who's pretty?
and even if you do, you don't
Donna.
tell him. Girl, can we talk about Donna? Because I need
Donna
to
looked
talk about
fantastic in this episode. Donna and Rachel look fantastic in this episode. Credit where credit's due. Women
I
stole
need
the
to
show
talk
tonight.
about Donna. Okay.
Yeah.
First of all, we're gonna get this out of the way. Okay. I had read, and again, I was kind of against the fact that this existed. I had read somebody's teaser, which we were told spoilers were embargoed, so the fact that these people mentioned specific plot points at all, it's just wrong.
Shade.
Right. But I read something about, one-sided feelings, which we see in this episode. Donna's like, hey, I didn't feel anything. And Harvey's like, but I'm human. Of course I felt something. Like, Donna, sure.
So when somebody was saying one-sided feelings, they were saying it's one-sided, like Harvey has feelings and Donna doesn't?
They were actually taking that at face value, which no. Like, if you look at
Really?
I mean,
It's season 7 of Suits and you believe what Donna says about her feelings in this economy? Okay, go on.
So, I mean, we need to talk about that because Donna, like, I love how she, like, flat out lies to Harvey, gives him an out, and he's so stupid he doesn't even know it. Like, I have to say, like, from the moment she came up to him and was like, boy, you're going to go in that room and interview that guy, or we're going to talk about it, right? From that moment straight through until your judgment sucks. Like, that was the best this show can be. Those two, the petty subtext fight followed by the actual fight in the hallway, like, but then Donna, like, again, so y'all got to pay attention to this show. It's much deeper than it plays like it is. Like, she tells Harvey.
Shana's a Korsh stan. Korsh is the showrunner. Just offering some context.
No, but like, she tells Harvey that she doesn't feel anything, and then she's sitting there having an emo solo scotch and
clearly feeling something.
Right, and she's talking about, like, again, she could have told Lewis, like, yeah, I kissed Harvey and that was dumb. But she's like, well, you were talking about, like, losing your soulmate.
The love of your life. See, the thing with Donna is when she was saying that she didn't feel anything, she was saying that because she was putting him first and giving him an out. She was giving him a way to say, like, I didn't feel anything either. We're going to go back to normal or whatever. Mm-hmm. And he didn't take that out that she so clearly gave him. Jumping in the chat here because we have some comments about what you're saying. Stormy says, I can't stand Paula. Harvey is still lying to her. Not telling her he slept with Donna is a bad choice. Very true. And Donna was rocking that green dress. Also very true. Just a fan fave says, Suits took way too long to address the Darby sex. Very true. I feel like we should address it with more Darby sex. Stormy says, I don't believe Donna when she says she didn't feel anything. Yeah, I don't believe her either. I wonder if Harvey believes her. I mean, I'm keeping you all too late. We probably have like 3 minutes left, but to stay within our 30-minute attempt, our attempt at 30 minutes. But I want to get some thoughts from you about what you want to see going forward. Now, I know that's kind of colored by the fact that you've already seen half the episodes of the back half of season 7. You've already seen the next 2 that we'll see in the next 2 weeks. However, what would you like to see just in general going forward, or at the point that you finished the episode that we just saw tonight? What were you wanting to see going forward?
There's one thing.
And if you guys have thoughts in the chat, drop it below as well.
I'm gonna go a little bit backwards in time. And I'm not spoiling anything, but I will refer to some what I would have liked to have seen based on what I know and without saying what that is. We had 10 shitty episodes to set this up, and we've got at least 3 fantastic episodes. This one and then at least 2 more.
Right.
And what I really think would have made the shitty episodes not as bad and that I think would have been better would be if we had been able to, instead of 10 and 6, evened it out a little bit. With that being,
so split the season 8 and 8, more like it,
or ish. Like, it doesn't have to be perfectly even, but I wish it would have been a little bit less uneven. With that being said, after 10 shitty episodes of really not even knowing who Aaron Korsh is anymore. I will, like I said, like it's really well done, at least up to 713. What I would like to see is, I mean, there's still so much to be addressed, specifically between Donna and Harvey. Like they had their olive branch moment, and they hugged, and he gave her that in love little half smirk, and I wanted to die.
They hugged and swayed. Let's not forget the swaying.
I can't handle the swaying. So I do believe, however, that they have more work to do, and what I don't want is for this to just overnight be done. Would I like by the end of the season for them to go to Mike and Rachel's wedding and wind up naked? I mean, obviously. But
she means have a lovely chaste dance on the dance floor at the wedding. That's
yes,
what she meant to say.
Yes, a naked dance. So no. So I mean, at some point, like if this isn't building towards ding dong, the witch is gone, and this finally working out, then I don't know what the point of any of it was. And I would really hate to see like these 3 really good episodes not have a point. I would really hate to see 7 seasons not have a point. I'd also like, I mean, because we gotta look at Mike and Rachel. We've got 5 episodes, really 4, but one's double coming up that I would really like to see. I'd like to know that they're going to be okay. Like off there in some universe, and I don't want them.
I just want to make sure Rachel's okay, to be honest.
Look, would you leave Mike Ross parent trapped Donna? Okay,
that's fair. Mike Ross's one redeeming character trait, well, he has a couple, but his main redeeming character trait is the fact that he would like sell his soul to get Harvey and Donna together. He's throwing this whole wedding just to get Harvey and Donna together. Just looking at the chat, what people say they want to see going forward. Stormy says, I need the Harvey and Paula relationship to end. It's just not a healthy relationship, and the actors have no chemistry. Stormy. Yeah. Honey, I love you, and I agree with you on some level, but let me play the devil's advocate here. For everybody watching who wants Harvey and Paula to just immediately break up, who at the end of that episode, when Harvey went to Paula and told her about the whole Donna thing, and she was like, gasp, clutches pearls, you wanted them to break up. Let me just play the devil's advocate. Let me be a Korsh apologist for a second and tell you why maybe they shouldn't break up right away. Okay, so I've already presented and laid the groundwork for you for the fact that within this ethical scenario, Paula is the villain. This is no shade. We love villains here, but Paula's the villain. The villain needs to be present for the story to have something to push against. Because if they were to just break up like that, and then we have, Harvey and Donna just sort of kind of hinted at confessing feelings for each other, but Donna's maybe still in denial, and they had nothing to push against, it wouldn't leave that buildup with a lot of tension. All we'd be left with is just the tension of like, will they, won't they, but without the why of will they or won't they. Harvey has this whole thing of he doesn't want to cheat. Right? So for him to even be tempted, and I'm not advocating for a cheating storyline necessarily, for him to even be tempted to cheat, for him to even have these sort of like, it's late night and I want, it's nearly midnight and I want to go to Donna's office and hug and sway and do this whole, thing, but like, it's not cheating, but like whatever. For him to even be pulled in that direction kind of shows how strong his feelings are for Donna, and for Donna to even, be going towards that as well. It's just showing that this buildup is that much stronger because they're having to build up towards each other with other things pulling them away. So when they do finally get together, it's going to make that more, I don't want to say meaningful, but it's going to show how strong their feelings actually were without them having to like sit and write sonnets for each other. You also have to have this whole like, you made the point that Harvey and Paula don't have like a lot of chemistry. That's fair and that's true. I think that they don't. But you take that and you take how Harvey and Paula act towards each other. That then serves as a contrast for Harvey and Donna, where it's like Harvey and Donna have this natural rapport and they've got this natural flirty banter and they just look at each other and you see years and years of history. Contrast that with the sort of surface level stuff that we see with this basic dialogue back and forth with Harvey and Paula. It gives us that contrast, that reason to root for Harvey and Donna. So that's all I'm saying is like, give it a second just to serve as this sort of roadblock. Somebody's there messing with Harvey's head, but he's still sort of able to pull through. And that's going to show a certain mental stability in him, that he's able to pull himself out of that unhealthy relationship. But it's also going to show like the emotions causing a bit of mental instability that we've seen in the past and how he's able to sort of reconcile that. Likewise with Donna, we need to see her move past this sort of state of denial, because she's always been much more in denial, as we've seen in tonight's episode, but also in all the past seasons, about her relationship with Harvey. And having her move past that denial, I think, is going to take a couple episodes as well. So we don't want her to come out of denial and Harvey's still dating Paula. You know what I mean? Give it a second. Let's see this one play out. Shana, you might have some different thoughts, but that's also because you've seen 2 more episodes than I have.
I don't think Donna's been the most in denial. I mean, she's the one that was like, dude, our lines are blurred as fuck. Like, that's
But that's super recent that she's admitted that.
But I mean, she's also the one that pushed him after that whole Donna, I love you, to say something. And
right.
I will say the other thing I really want to say, I mean,
she pushed him because she wanted him to take it back, but go on.
Oh, are we going to fight? Okay. No, the one thing I will say, and I go into this like very deeply in my recap, but it's very long. So if y'all can't read that many words this late, I get it. But I did see a lot of people on Twitter that, and in various group chats that I'm in, that I was really surprised to see were not digging the way Harvey was acting. And I feel it, because he was being an ass, but he was supposed to be being an ass. And I'd say, like, you've got to be in his position, that he's got somebody who he's always relied on. He's always trusted her judgment, and her knowing everything that she does about him, the way that he feels about cheating, what she did, especially because then he felt something, so he feels like he cheated. What she did from his standpoint, and I wouldn't say it's a very gray area of whether it was actually wrong or not, because it was right for her that she had to do something. But it was wrong.
I would say it's wrong because he kissed her back. Like, I have no problem with it personally, but he kissed her back and he was in a relationship.
Yeah, but I mean, he
told Paula about it, and he didn't tell Paula about the whole like other things of how. So like, he's crossed the line of right and wrong. I personally don't care because I'm rooting for him and Donna, so like, who cares? But it's not like super wrong. It's a little wrong.
The way that he's behaving is, first of all, perfectly in character. He's who we know.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I think people need to really take a step back and say, okay, this is who Harvey Specter is. This is where he is. I get it. I hate that relationship. I hate that it was put in this show. I hate how it's been written. Him and Paula, obviously, not him and Donna. But based on where we are and who these people are and what we know about him, this is exactly what we wanted from Harvey Specter. And yet, I mean, it was taken up a notch even from what I would have expected. And again, like in this situation, everything that these two were yelling at, that Donna and Harvey were yelling at each other, everything, they were both right. No, everybody's wrong and everybody's right here. There is no, and that, I think this is the first time that Suits has ever been like, look, a gray area, and been 100% right that it's a gray area.
It's also because
my thing was like wrong.
Gray areas before, it's had to do with storylines that I just don't care about as much. Like when we saw Rachel sleep with that, or sleep with that married guy or whatever. It's like, I'm not really rooting for her to be with Mike. I'm kind of just rooting for her to find somebody who like loves and cares about her and all that sort of stuff, which happened to in the end be Mike. But it's like I didn't really care that much. Or when we had the whole back and forth on Mike and the Harvard thing, it's like, I kind of want him there mostly just to set up Harvey and Donna, if I'm honest. But if he needs to go to jail for a few months, he needs to go to jail for a few months. Like, worse things have happened. It's fine. It's chill. Same thing with a lot of what Lewis has done, and Lewis and Katrina. It's sort of like, it can be irritating or whatever, but it's like, do we care that much? Whereas this with Harvey and Donna, I think by we, I at least mean you and I think probably a lot of people watching, we care a lot more. And so we're invested now finally in an ethical conflict that they have presented. Let me read a couple chats here that we've got. Just a fan fave says, I love Mike and I want a Ross Zane wedding. You're going to get your wish, my friend. I'm pretty certain. Stormy says, I don't think the end should have been this episode, but it can be done. Can it be done this season? I will compromise with you there, Stormy. I will say Harvey and Paula will break up this season. I'm putting it out into the universe. I'm planting the seed and I will see the harvest, as that one meme says. Justin Van Fave says, I think they have chemistry. I don't ship them together, though. I think she's referring to Harvey and Paula. She says, Donna crossed the line and Harvey was kind of jerky. Yeah, so like what Shana was saying, it's sort of this like back and forth. I mean, it's certainly crossing a line to like kiss some guy that's in a relationship with somebody else.
Yeah.
And Stormy says, am I the only one who shipped Lewis and Katrina? You're not the only one who shipped Lewis and Katrina, although I do think, I don't know what the character's age difference is supposed to be, but I think if the actor's age difference is anything close to what characters' age differences, they probably wouldn't go there just for that reason alone, unless like the characters are quite a lot closer in age than what the actors are, in which case maybe. I don't really know. I think it's over 10 years. And usually in TV land, over 10 years of an age difference is usually like considered a bit much. But
no, but I mean, TV loves middle-aged men with young women.
The concept of the character of Lewis and Katrina, I like together if it wasn't for the age difference. Shana, what were you saying?
Oh, sorry. I was like, there is a cultural thing of it somehow being okay for like middle-aged men to like with young women.
Oh, for sure. Especially if they're like rich lawyers or whatever. Like that's par for the course. So I guess that wouldn't be surprising.
It wouldn't be.
I mean, Harvey and Donna have a 5-year age difference at the very least in canon.
It's okay because he's like an infant emotionally.
That's true. He's like got the emotions of a 16-year-old. She's got the emotions of, I mean, it varies. Like when she's giving sage advice, she sounds like a wise, like super mature person. But then like when she's talking about her own emotions, she's like, my own emotions, what are those? Haven't heard that name in years. Also, we are 11 minutes over time. So let me read the last of the chats. And then Shana, I'm going to have you tell people where to find you if they would like to chat with you more about things. You guys already know where to find me if you want to chat more about things. And Cammie and Ray everywhere that's existed since MySpace. Just a fan fave says, Lewis is hung up on Sheila. That's fair. I think Lewis and Sheila is kind of going to be their sort of end game thing. I don't know. Well, Lewis really wants kids, but they can adopt or do something. I don't know. They'll make it work. It's TV. They'll retcon something, change a storyline. It's Suits. That's normal for Suits. Just a fan fave says, bye guys, see you for Arrow. Yes, if you watch Arrow, I will be here tomorrow to chat about that with you guys. If you like that sort of thing, if you like evening soap operas. Like I do. Okay, Shana, if they want to talk to you about Suits, if they want to see what your thoughts were on everything else, if they want to pester you for spoilers, even though they won't get any, where can they find you?
I was gonna say you're not getting spoilers out of me because I value my
your life. Yeah.
So there's a couple things. If you want to read my novellas about whatever show that I happen to be doing at the time, like Suits,
I do.
It's the tvaddict.com/author/Shana. That's SHANA. On the Twitter,
yes,
I'm back to having a hard to explain one, but it's
I have it linked in the description below.
Yeah, it's at Shazors, so SHAYZ0RZ. And I mean, you can
only true 2000s kids will remember.
Exactly, yeah. But again, like I'm not one of these people that's going to put out, hey, who wants spoilers or answer a bunch of questions.
She's not going to give you spoilers.
I'm not going to live tweet screeners. I'm not going to do Q&As. It is not happening. When I see spoilers are embargoed until air, I'm like, okay.
I see people sometimes like who get screeners doing like live Q&A sessions or whatever on Tumblr, and I'm like, oh honey, but it's anonymous, so like whatever. All right, well, I'm gonna let everybody go. Shana, thank you for joining me. Everybody watching, thank you for joining me. Everybody chatting along, watching after the fact, etc., thank you for joining me. You can chat with me at Cammie and Ray on Twitter or wherever you want, or leave a comment. I'll reply to you, and I will see you same time, same place next week to chat about next week's episode of Suits, or you can find me tomorrow chatting about Arrow, same time time, same place. If you're like into Arrow, if you're into like lawyers and superheroes, it's chill. Not everyone is. See you next week. Bye.